Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Wednesday, the 19th of November. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi completes his three-nation tour. Pakistani court convicts 3 to death for the honor killing of pregnant girl. And Sri Lanka releases 5 Indian fishermen on death row for alleged drug trafficking. And now for all the details, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi completed his three-nation tour with a visit to Fiji on Wednesday. The Premier promised a $75 million line of credit to the country and called for better ties between India and the Pacific Islands.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who reached Fiji capital Suva on Wednesday, was welcomed to the country by his counterpart, Frank Bainimarama. He was also greeted with a ceremonial welcome accompanied by a traditional song and dance. Prime Minister Modi, who held bilateral talks with his counterpart, promised a grant of $5 million to strengthen small and medium industries in the country. New Delhi has also pledged a $70 million line of credit to build a cogeneration power plant in the country. Both the leaders said they have agreed upon strengthening the ties in various sectors.
We agreed to consult more closely on international issues of mutual interests, including international trade, climate change, United Nations peacekeeping, and UN reforms. We agreed to identify opportunities to expand our trade and investment and work out a concrete roadmap.
Fiji Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama said his country was happy to have a growing relationship with India.
We are pleased that our relationship with India is growing, and we are proud to have India as a partner in Fiji's future.
Later in the day, Modi met the leaders of Pacific Island nations, a first for any Indian Prime Minister. In his maiden visit to the country, much like his Australia visit, Prime Minister Modi also addressed the Fiji Parliament. Addressing the lawmakers there, he said the two countries have a great potential to work together.
Stretching from the Indian Ocean through continental Asia into Pacific, this is a region of enormous dynamism and opportunities, but also a region with many challenges. Fiji is a leader in the region and a strong voice in the developing world. Together, we can also work for a future in the region in which there is an equal place for all nations and a climate of peace and tranquility.
Modi's one-day visit was the first by an Indian Prime Minister to Fiji in 33 years. Around 37% of the country's population is of Indian origin who migrated in the 19th century. Modi, who completed his marathon 10-day three-nation visit, will return to India early on Thursday.
Afghanistan and Pakistan have been ranked among the top 5 countries in the Global Terrorism Index. According to the study, 80% of all terror-related activities across the world happened in just 5 countries.
Iraq topped the list with 2,492 attacks that killed more than 6,300 people. Afghanistan, Pakistan, followed by Nigeria and Syria, makes the top 5 countries affected by terrorism, according to a study by London-based Institute for Economics and Peace. While in Afghanistan, most of the terror activities were carried out by the Taliban, in Pakistan, various militant groups were responsible for the attacks. From 2012, Pakistan has seen a 37% increase in deaths and 28% increase in number of injuries. Most of these strikes were carried out by suicide bombers, which accounted for nearly 20% of the attacks. More than 500 cities in Pakistan had at least one terrorist incident in 2013, with 2 or more incidents occurring in each of 180 cities. Of all attacks, 16% occurred in the largest city of Karachi, the study said. The study also points out at the increasing trend of targeting educational institutions in the country. In 2013 alone, more than 100 schools came under attack, leaving nearly 150 dead. The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan or TTP, which in 2013 had an estimated strength of 36,000 to 60,000, had claimed responsibility for nearly half of the attacks. The Lashkar-e-Jangvi and Jundallah were also responsible for some high-profile militant strikes across the country. The Pakistan Army is currently carrying out a full-fledged military crackdown against the TTP in its strongholds in the tribal areas of the country. The army claims to have eliminated more than 1,200 militants and severely damaged the militia's capability to carry out terror attacks.
A Pakistani court on Wednesday awarded capital punishment to 3 people, including the father, brother and cousin of Farzana Parveen, who was killed by her family in an apparent honor killing. A report.
The Lahore High Court sentenced Farzana Parveen's father, Mohammad Azim, her brother and cousin to death for her brutal killing. Second brother, who was also accused in the case, was given 10 years imprisonment. 25-year-old Parveen was stoned to death by nearly a dozen men, including her family, outside the Lahore High Court in May this year. The family had accused Parveen of marrying against their wishes. The family wanted her to marry her cousin Jahan Khan, but she decided to elope with her neighbor Muhammad Iqbal. Parveen, who was 3 months pregnant at the time of the incident, was in the Lahore High Court to record her statement after the family accused her husband of kidnapping her. She was attacked with stones and bricks in broad daylight until she dropped dead. Parveen's father, Mohammad Azim, who was arrested by the police from the spot, confessed to killing his daughter for what he called family honor. Parveen's brutal killing had come under international criticism for the prevailing practice of honor killing in the country. According to the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, 869 cases of honor killings were reported in the country in 2013 alone.
In an attempt to boost India's traditional Ayurvedic therapy market, the government has created an entire ministry to promote yoga and Ayurvedic therapies across the globe. The move is expected to revive the fortunes of the ages-old Indian traditional medicine. Here's a report.
Shripad Yesso Naik, the former Minister of State of Tourism and Culture with independent charge, has now taken control of the new Ministry of Ayurveda, Yoga and Naturopathy, Unani, Siddha and Homeopathy, which has thankfully been abbreviated to Ayush.
आयुष एक सेपरेट मिनिस्ट्री बनाई है और मैं समझता हूँ मैं सबसे भाग्यवान हूँ और वो काम हमारे ऊपर सौंपा है, इसलिए हम बहुत भाग्यवान समझते हैं और इस देश को एक बलवान निरोगी करना ये हमारा आगे का कर्तव्य है और जो कुछ इस मिनिस्ट्री में आयुष में जो कुछ हमारे पास होगा तो पूरी ताकत से वो हम आगे लेके जाने में मदद करेंगे.
India's Prime Minister himself, a strong proponent of yoga and natural remedies, has allocated a very generous $225 million to the ministry. And at the 6th World Ayurveda Congress recently, Mr. Modi emphasized that the development and promotion of traditional healthcare systems depends solely on the dedication of its practitioners.
इसकी पहली आवश्यकता ये है कि मैं अगर आयुर्वेद क्षेत्र का विद्यार्थी हूं या मैं आयुर्वेद क्षेत्र का डॉक्टर हूं, मैं आयुर्वेद क्षेत्र का टीचर हूं या मैं आयुर्वेद क्षेत्र में मेडिसिन का मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करता हूं या मैं होलिस्टिक हेल्थ केयर को प्रमोट करने वाला हूं, मैं किसी क्षेत्र से हूं, उसमें मेरा कोई कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं होना चाहिए. मेरी 100% प्रतिबद्धता होनी चाहिए और अगर हम 100% प्रतिबद्धता लेकर चलते हैं, आप देखिए परिणाम आना शुरू हो जाएगा.
Some modern biomedical health practitioners, however, feel that India should instead channel more funds towards improving its national healthcare infrastructure.
So looking at the present scenario, I would feel that the things which are already there, like taking care of asepsis, sterilization of allopathic treatments which are going on already, they should be taken care as a priority and they should be taken to the task first than to take care of new things in motion.
A dedicated ministry for yoga and other traditional medical treatments may be useful for boosting India's share of the global lucrative alternative medicines market. But even in India, Ayurvedic and other forms of traditional treatment may face a tough challenge from drugs produced by the massive modern pharmaceutical industry. Avneet Arora for South Asia Newsline in New Delhi.
The United States on Wednesday said terror outfit Haqqani network was as much a threat as any other extremist group in the region. This comes after Pakistan's National Security Advisor Sartaj Aziz suggested not to attack non-hostile militants in the country.
Washington on Wednesday gave its first official reaction to Sartaj Aziz's statement that the Haqqani network was a problem that Afghanistan and the United States should sort out. We have long communicated to the Pakistani government our view that militant groups, including the Pakistani Taliban and the Haqqani network, continue to pose a threat to Pakistan, to the region and to the United States. It's vital that every effort is made to deny safe haven to any and all violent extremists, the US State Department said in a statement. The State Department press officer Jeff Rathke also said that the message will be reiterated to Pakistan Army Chief General Raheel Sharif, who is currently in the United States. Aziz, Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's advisor on national security, had on Monday said the country should refrain from attacking terror groups who do not pose a direct threat to the state. In a reference to the Afghan Taliban and the Haqqani network, Aziz said that after the NATO invasion of Afghanistan, America's enemies had become the enemies of Pakistan for no reason. Islamabad has long been accused by neighbouring India, Afghanistan and Iran of harbouring militant groups who are responsible for terror attacks in their respective countries.
The Sri Lankan government on Wednesday released 5 Indian fishermen on death row in the country. Lankan authorities have handed over the fishermen to Indian officials in Colombo. Sri Lankan government said they have been pardoned and wouldn't have to serve time in Indian jail as agreed up on earlier. This comes a day after the fishermen withdrew the appeal in the Supreme Court against their conviction. The Indians decided on not proceeding with their plea after Sri Lankan President Mahinda Rajapaksa agreed to pardon the convicts. Colombo, however, had put forward a condition that the appeal challenging the death sentence should be withdrawn. The fishermen, all from India's southern Tamil Nadu, were convicted last month after they were arrested by the Navy in 2011 for allegedly smuggling contraband to Sri Lanka. The Bangladesh Navy has rescued over 600 Bangladeshi and Myanmar nationals who were being trafficked. Officials said the victims were lured with a promise to illegally migrate to Malaysia.
The Bangladesh Navy on Tuesday seized a boat off its coast and arrested 14 people on charge of human trafficking. Nearly 600 people, including women and children, were rescued from the confiscated trawler. According to reports, the victims were offered a free journey by the boat to get them on board ships travelling to Malaysia. Bangladeshi officials said this was one of the biggest human trafficking operations of its kind in the country.
তারা আমাদের বাংলাদেশ এবং মায়ানমারের যে সীমা সমুদ্র সীমা সেই সমুদ্র সীমা থেকে 15 মাইল ভিতরে ছিল বাংলাদেশের সীমানার ভিতরে এবং তারা প্রথমে চেষ্টা করেছিল পশ্চিম দিকে অর্থাৎ মায়ানমারের সীমানায় চলে যেতে কিন্তু আমরা আমাদের কৌশল এবং গতির মাধ্যমে তাদেরকে পরাস্ত করি.
Thousands of Bangladeshis and ethnic Rohingyas from Myanmar try to leave their country illegally every year to seek better futures elsewhere. Most of them end up being victims of human trafficking. Many even end up being abducted by traffickers who later demand ransoms for their release. Small boats carrying hundreds of such illegal migrants often sink in the high seas.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude, the top stories once again. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi completes his 3-nation tour. Pakistani court convicts 3 to death for the honour killing of pregnant girl. And Sri Lanka releases 5 Indian fishermen on death row for alleged drug trafficking. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.